50 of the Standing Committee on Foreign Affairs and International Development. Today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format pursuant to the House Order of June 23, 2022. Members are attending in person in the room as well as remotely using the Zoom application. I'd like to make a few comments for the benefit of the members and the witnesses before we get started. First of all, kindly wait until I recognize you by name before speaking. For those participating by video conference, click on the microphone icon to activate your mic, and please mute yourselves when you are not speaking. Interpretation for those on Zoom is at the bottom of your screen, and you have a choice of either Floor, English, or French. Again, I'd just like to remind everyone that you await being recognized by the speaker before you speak. In accordance with our routine motion, or the Bergeron motion as I like to refer to it, I can assure all the members that all witnesses have completed the required connection tests in advance of the meeting. Pursuant to Standing Order 1082 and the motion adopted by the committee on Thursday, February 9th, 2023, the committee is holding a briefing on the humanitarian crisis following a series of earthquakes in Turkey and Syria. It is now my pleasure to welcome from the Department of Foreign Affairs, Trade and Development, Mr. Stephen Salowitz, who is the Director General of International Humanitarian Assistance, Mr. Jess Dutton, the Director General of the Middle East, Ms. Tara Carney, who is reappearing once again. Thank you for that. She is the Director of the International Humanitarian Assistance Operations. And, of course, Mr. Andrew Turner, Director of the Eastern Europe and Eurasia Division. Mr. Salowitz, you will be provided 5 minutes for your remarks, after which we will proceed to rounds of questioning. I will signal to you when you are 30 seconds short of the allotted time, and would be grateful if you could wrap it up. The same goes for questions that are put to you by the members. Once we're approaching the allotted time, I will put this up so you have a good sense of timing. So now I will yes, Mr. Bergeron.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With the colleagues' consent, I wish to move that the committee report to the House that it ask authorities of Azerbaijan, as it is a party to the trilateral report of November, given the Canada's demand that they open the Lachin corridor in order to avoid any deterioration in the humanitarian situation in that region.
Mr. Bergeron for that. Okay, so you're tabling that. Excellent. Oh, you're moving it. Okay. Yes, I was listening, but I was trying
to... we were having a hard time with getting our...
Oh, you're having a hard time. My apologies.
If you could just repeat it, that'd be great.
Yes, Mr. Bergeron, the members are asking that you repeat what the motion you are moving.
With pleasure, Mr. Chairman, that the committee report to the House that is asking the Azerbaijani authorities, pursuant to its obligations as it is a party of the bilateral Declaration of November 2020, and given the demand of Canada in December 2022 to open the Lachin corridor and guarantee freedom of movement in order to avoid any deterioration in the humanitarian situation. Is it?
Yes, Mr. Oliphant.
Oh, thank you, Chair, and I want to thank the member, Mr. Bergeron, for bringing the motion. On our side, we are supportive of the motion. I would have some concerns that we had not had a full hearing on the topic in this committee. However, nonetheless, we are supportive of the motion to be presenting that to the House, and we would, however, I'd like to make an amendment to it to move that we request that the government provide a response within the usual 120 days. I think that will demand that the government pay attention to it and respond to it.
Yes, Mr. Hoback.
In the order of process, are you making an amendment then, Mr. Oliphant? So we debate the amendment now, and I'm okay with the amendment, if Mr. Bergeron is too.
Everyone okay with the amendment? Okay, so that's been unanimously adopted, the amendment. And as for the actual motion, is there unanimous agreement? Good to see there's unanimous agreement. Happy to hear that. So it's been adopted as well, Mr. Bergeron. Yep. So we will now resume with our witnesses. Again, thank you for having appeared before us. Mr. Salowitz, you will be provided 5 minutes for your opening remarks, after which the members will be asking you questions. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, committee members. As of February 14th, more than 37,000 deaths have been reported in Turkey and northwest Syria, following two of the most powerful earthquakes that hit the region in more than 100 years. These earthquakes are historic in both their size and in the scale of destruction. I join the government and the people of Canada in extending our condolences to the people of Turkey and Syria and to families and friends in mourning and hope for a full recovery of the injured. Plus de 6,000 bâtiments.
More than 6,000 buildings are reported to have been destroyed in Turkey, and 1 million people have been forced from their homes. Across both countries, critical infrastructure, including hospitals, have been destroyed or damaged. This exacerbates the needs and complicates the efforts of first responders who were severely affected. Many of the worst damage is in the major urban centers, which are logistical centers that are essential to dispatch aid to northeastern Syria. In northeastern Syria, the catastrophe aggravates an already fragile situation due to the conflicts, insecurity, and cholera epidemic that is ongoing, difficult winter conditions, and significant long travel requirements. In both countries, the immediate destruction has been amplified by thousands of aftershocks, causing further damage to buildings. This is forcing thousands to stay away from their homes, facing sub-zero overnight temperatures without shelter.
They expressed their condolences and support for Turkey immediately, as did countless numbers of Canadians. Ankara is a long-standing partner of Canada, so when they requested our help, we responded. Last Tuesday, the Minister of Foreign Affairs held a call with her Turkish counterpart, during which she expressed Canada's readiness to assist. Canada has since been coordinating closely with Turkish officials, including the Disaster and Emergency Management Authority, which leads on Turkey's response efforts. In his call with Turkish ambassador last week, Minister Sajan underlined Canada's commitment to coordinate its response with key international partners and the government of Turkey. Canada's diplomatic missions on the ground are also actively engaged, so as are our officials here in Ottawa, who are engaging regularly with the Turkish embassy to get the most recent requests for assistance and to facilitate the deployment of Canadian experts. Our support has been swift and meaningful. Canada is invested in a responsive international humanitarian system. This support has contributed to the UN's standing capacity to rapidly respond to natural disasters. It has facilitated the immediate deployment of 2 UN disaster assessment and coordination teams to the region to help with critical coordination efforts, and the release of $75 million in allocations from a variety of UN emergency funds to rapidly scale up operations. Canada is already one of the largest contributors to humanitarian response in Syria, having provided nearly $50 million in 2023 alone to the UN, Red Cross, and NGO partners to respond to needs. This support has enabled partners on the ground to rapidly pivot their operations to respond to needs resulting from the earthquakes. Since 2016, Canada has provided over $660 million in humanitarian assistance in Syria. In the immediate aftermath of the disaster, Minister Sajjan announced $10 million in additional humanitarian assistance. This funding will be used to support emergency medical services and provide shelter, food, and other essential items to crisis-affected populations across the region. On February 8th, it was further announced that Canada will match donations to the Canadian Red Cross Earthquake Appeal. Every donation made by individuals to the Canadian Red Cross between February 6th and 22nd will be matched up to a maximum of $10 million. These funds will support the International Red Cross and Red Crescent movement in their response to the humanitarian needs caused by the earthquakes. Canada is working also with the Canadian Red Cross to deploy critical relief supplies that we have pre-positioned in warehouses in Dubai. These initial allocations reflect a critical lesson learned from past disasters. Working with local actors and those already on the ground allows us to provide relief to those most in need as quickly and as effectively as possible. In addition, we've also deployed a joint Global Affairs Canadian Armed Forces assessment team to the field to identify additional opportunities for Canadian engagement. Canada will continue to work closely with partners on the ground to assess needs and coordinate further support to ensure a needs-based humanitarian response to the crisis. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Salowitz. We will now turn to the members. The first member is MP Redekop. The floor is yours for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the witnesses for being here. And of course, all of us are horrified by this disaster. And I'm sure all of us would agree that we want to do what we can, and really want to help people there. My question's about the matching donations. As you just said, you're matching the donations to the Red Cross up till the 22nd for relief efforts in Turkey and Syria. And the Red Cross is a great organization, doing great things. The reality, though, is that many Canadians donate to organizations they're familiar with. For example, many newcomers donate to Islamic Relief and may not be as comfortable with the Red Cross. And others donate to World Vision, Canadian Food Grain Bank, Oxfam, etc. Will the government expand the matching program to include organizations like Oxfam, Canadian Food Grains Bank, World Vision, Islamic Relief, and others?
Thank you, Chair, for the question. As indicated, yes, we have partnered with the Canadian Red Cross and the Red Cross movement. The rationale behind that decision was there is significant capacity on the ground already with Red Cross. The Turkish Red Crescent, for instance, has 5,000 volunteers already responding to the crisis, and we wanted to ensure that Canadian funds were injected immediately into the response of local actors and to support their efforts. I agree totally that there are very good Canadian partners that exist. We're partnering with them already, and we have partnered with them for many years in Syria, and will continue to do so. And that a lack of a match does not stop Canadians from contributing to those organizations, and indeed, the Canadian government will continue to partner with those organizations.
So partnering is one thing, but having the matching donations is a great incentive. And there's another solution to this that's even simpler than that, and that is the Humanitarian Coalition, because as you likely know, they bring together organizations like the Food Grains Bank, World Vision, Islamic Relief, Lutheran World Relief, Save the Children, others. It's a great cross-section of our multicultural nation. So would the government at least allow the Humanitarian Coalition to have matching donations?
Thank you, Chair. And indeed, the Humanitarian Coalition is a great organization. We partner with them on matched funds in the past. And we partner, their membership are critical to our response around the world. In this instance, we've decided to go with the Canadian Red Cross. Just as in the past, we've decided just to go with the Humanitarian Coalition. So given context, that was our approach. And that's the approach we've taken. Thank you.
And Chair, I'll pass my time over to David.
So I'm going to pick up on your last point. So is this a bit of trading back and forth? Because I'm aware the Humanitarian Coalition, also through their members, has boots on the ground, has been pre-vetted, as an organization that's worthy of matching. And to the point in your opening statement, you talked about how Canada was already partnering with numerous other agreements with the Red Cross. The matching component is to leverage Canadian support. And again, as my colleague has stated, that support exists across a wider variety of organizations. I can get into Charity Intelligence's evaluations of them. So can you talk to me about the vetting process or the decision-making process? Why only Red Cross?
So, as I mentioned earlier, the rationale behind the decision was to focus on local partners who have local access and can scale up quickly. That was the rationale behind the decision. I think we should all draw members' attention, or chair, to the World Humanitarian Summit that was held in 2016, where Canada pledged with other nations to support local efforts and local actors, and indeed lessons learned after previous earthquakes. Many evaluations over the years have demonstrated that local capacity is often bypassed in the face of these emergencies. What we decided to do was support that local capacity that exists already in place, that have Turkish nationals responding to the crisis, and that's the decision we take. That doesn't suggest that we don't support the humanitarian coalition, and indeed we've supported them in many other contexts, and in other contexts we've matched their funding. We've made a different decision this time.
Was the Humanitarian Partners Coalition's ground resources in the area considered at all?
Indeed, we have partnerships already there in northwest Syria. I won't go into specific partners for security reasons, but we do have partners, the Canadian NGO partners that are part of the Humanitarian Coalition that are on the ground. And we give them significant resources, and we will continue to give them significant resources.
Thank you. We now turn to you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Salowitz, and to your colleagues for being here today. I'd also like to thank and recognize that we as a country stood up to really be there for the Turkish and Syrian people in this moment of dire need. And that is critically important, not only for humanitarian purposes, but also to create stability within the region so that we do not have a global refugee or internal migration problems and crises. And I was happy to hear about the matching funds, and I won't pick up on the same questions that my colleagues from the party opposite mentioned, but those concerns around matching funds, extending it beyond the Red Cross, I've been hearing that from stakeholders in Canada, and just passing it to you also. That was also an issue that was noted during the Pakistan flood relief. Many organizations, NGOs and relief organizations were also saying why weren't they included in the humanitarian coalition matching funds. So just if you can be mindful of that into the future, to find a way around that. I would like to ask, I've been also hearing from stakeholders around the question of are any funds that we are giving from Canada going to the Syrian government or affiliates of the government? Do you have any knowledge about that? Can you shed light on that particular concern?
Of course. Chair, I can assure you that our assistance is directed through NGOs, Red Cross, and UN organizations that aren't affiliated with the government. Our funds go into the hands of humanitarian partners, and none of it goes to the government.
And given that the area in Turkey is predominantly populated by Kurds, are the funds that are being and the resources being delivered to Turkey being properly distributed to those in need within Turkey, including the Kurdish population? Thank
you, Chair. So the situation is very fluid on the ground, of course, and there's a lot of information and a lot of movement at this point in time. What we know is there's also a lot of Syrian refugees that are in this area as well. And our understanding from early reports is that aid is being distributed to all those in need without recourse to ethnicity or so on.
We know that both Syria and Turkey have a lot of displaced people, people who are undocumented. Are they getting equal amount of relief to those who are documented within Turkey and in Syria?
I think, looking at Syria, we've seen over the years that they've been one of the largest, they've welcomed a large number of Syrians and other displaced. And the reporting we're receiving so far, and of course it's still early days, but what we hear is that assistance is being distributed evenly according to need, not according to ethnic background.
Are you within Turkey? We know that Turkey has a large migrant population, undocumented. Are efforts being done to assure that those who are also undocumented are getting equal treatment?
I could speak to the partners that we work with and within the international humanitarian system, and the work that they do is guided by humanitarian principles. And primary to that is that anyone in need receives assistance, no matter what their background or whether they have documentation or not. It's an allocation of resources based on needs.
And we know about the numbers of deaths reaching approximately 30,000, if I'm correct. In terms of those who are impacted, we know that cities have been leveled. They will not be rebuilt. Some cities within Turkey will not be rebuilt. Can you tell us how many people have been impacted by these earthquakes beyond the deaths? How many actually have been impacted?
Thank you, Chair. The current count that I have, the most recent count, is that there's 21 million people who've been affected across both countries. So an enormous number of population, many of them in desperate need of humanitarian assistance.
And how long will it take for them to recover, to restore their full lives? And how much resources will be needed? How many resources?
That is a question I can't answer. To be honest, Chair, there will be studies as there are after other events of this nature. We've seen the World Bank and others will have to do assessments, working with the governments to determine how best to reconstruct, and what that total value of will be enormous, I imagine.
Again, thank you for the work that you're doing and stepping up.
Thank you.
We now go to MP Bergeron. 5 minutes, Mr. Bergeron.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you for all the work you're doing to keep the people suffering on the ground in Turkey and Syria. Our comments this morning may seem critical, but please be aware that we do recognize all the work that's being done in the interest of those who are suffering currently. So thank you so much. Very quickly, I'd like to get back to the issue of the matching funds. I think that my colleagues have expressed our concern, our recurring concern that's communicated to us by others about the choice of organizations that benefit from those matching funds. I won't repeat us on that, but it seems to be my understanding, according to what you've said, that on the margin of this, there are other sums that are paid to other NGOs on the ground to help the victims in Turkey and Syria. Could you confirm that, please? I'd appreciate it. And my question, this time the matching funds were set with a ceiling of $10 million. How do you set that ceiling for matching funds? And how do you set the deadline for contributions? Personally, I think that it's quite a tight deadline. I'm sure there's a rationale that led you to set that date. So could you shed light on that, please?
Respond, could I just ask that you lean into your microphone? The technicians have advised that the interpreters are having a hard time hearing you, so if you could do that, it would be much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, for the question. A series of questions. Just to confirm, there are a series of partners we already have been funding in Syria for an extended period of time that are delivering assistance. that are beyond the Red Cross movement and that are members of the humanitarian coalition. So we have strong partnerships already in place. Why 10 million? It's a question that we have faced in the past. We've used to work through something we call the relief fund, Chair. And this relief fund was open-ended. There was no limit to the amount of funding that would be provided. It was up to the generosity of Canadians. The challenge with that kind of open-ended approach is that we don't have the fiscal resources within our own budget to manage that. So it takes a long time. We need to secure the resources. It's open-ended, and it's uncertain about what the final requirements are. It was also open to a large membership of actors that can apply for the funding. As a result, it would take us a tremendous amount of time, much longer than we thought was useful and more important, responsible to respond in a rapid manner to these emergencies. So by putting a level at 10 million, I can fund it through the budget that I have for humanitarian assistance. And the date limit is something that we've learned from our partners. Indeed, through their own interactions with us, they've indicated a shorter limit, that the money usually comes in early or right at the end. And in between, not a lot happens. So for them, they feel like a shorter period actually gives a focused target to the giving. And it allows us to effectively respond quickly. So we can release the monies to our partners. Maybe just to give you some example of the timing, previous relief funds, we had one in Pakistan previously for flooding. It took 200 days to get the money out. This last flood in Pakistan took 30 days. So we have an extremely fast tool at our disposal that allows us to respond. And I'd just like to remind, Chair, that it's one tool among many. And we have a broad group of tools. We're releasing relief supplies tomorrow. They're flying out from Dubai. It includes 10,000 blankets, enough hygiene kits for 2,000 families, 10,000 individuals, and other items as well. So we have a broad range of tools, and the matching fund is one that we think is important for public engagement, but again, it's one of those tools. Thank you, Chair.
Out of time, Mr. Bergeron.
Already?
Yes.
Oh my God. That was good.
Inaudible.
Thank you. We now go to MP McPherson. You have the floor for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I would like to thank all the officials for being here today and sharing this information with us. I do have one quick thing that I'd like to read into the record, a notice of motion that was sent out to all members yesterday, I believe. And that is that the committee report the following to the House. The committee calls on the Government of Canada without delay to amend sections of the Criminal Code currently preventing Canadian humanitarian organizations from delivering aid in Afghanistan and similar contexts without fear of prosecution. Just want to make sure that I have that moved into the record. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to start with the humanitarian coalition. I think it's very clear. We've heard from members from all parties now that they all support the humanitarian coalition, receiving this funds, being part of the matching fund. I understand what you've told us, what the witnesses have told us with regards to the decision being made. But now, knowing that there is cross-party support, knowing that there is very clear proof that the humanitarian coalition has members on the ground that are able to do this work, of course, the matching fund is vitally important for their efforts to fundraise for Turkey and Syria. Will the Government of Canada be considering changing their matching fund to include the humanitarian coalition?
Thank you, Chair. As always, when I approach these committees, I welcome the advice and guidance from members of the committee. We always take these issues, and as discussed, take these ideas back with us, and that's what we'll do. Thank you.
Well, when I did ask the minister within the House of Commons during question period whether or not he would be considering adding the humanitarian coalition to this matching fund, he did say that all things were being reviewed and that this was the start, not the finish. So certainly, I would hope that you would take that information that you've received from all members of this committee, certainly, and seriously consider adding the humanitarian coalition. I think it's a missed opportunity when we don't have organizations with such expertise that are already on the ground being able to increase the impact that generous Canadians have asked for. The next question I have actually is a little bit around the funding that will be required by Turkey and Syria in the long term. So we know, of course, that there is the emergency response after a horrific event like this. We do know that there's the humanitarian aid, but there will be a need for much more and on a much longer term commitment. And we do know that the UN just this morning launched a $400 million appeal for earthquake victims in Syria. And I'm just wondering what Canada's stance is. Will we be committing our fair share to that?
Thank you. Thank you for the question, Chair. And indeed, we've been looking forward to the release of that UN appeal for Syria. We're anticipating more information in the coming days regarding what more can be done for Turkey as well in that regards. And indeed, we're putting in place, and I think ministers have already indicated all options are on the table, and we're looking closely at how we can increase that support in the coming days to do our fair share, as you suggest.
Thank you. And can you tell me? I mean, obviously, this is something that that Canada needs to do. We have an obligation to do our fair share, but it is something, of course, that is worrying for the sector when we don't get a clear indication from Global Affairs Canada and from the minister that this would be, in fact, new money. Can we expect this to be new money, not money that is taken away from other extremely important development projects, extremely important humanitarian contexts?
I can't say, that that's the case or not, but that's our intention. We'll have to see. The budget right now, it's going to come from a humanitarian budget.
So can't tell us whether or not in the upcoming budget we can expect to see an increase to obviously respond to what's happening in Turkey and Syria, in a context where we clearly will have to respond to crises around the world as well, crises that have been exacerbated because of COVID-19, because of the conflict in Ukraine, the food insecurity that is happening across the globe.
I wouldn't go into budget deliberations. What I would say is that we're identifying what resources are available currently, because the importance right now is timeliness of funding, and we're looking at how we can actually access resources that are available through crisis pool, for instance, or other types of tools like that.
And then just one last question. If you could talk to me a little bit.
I'm afraid you're out of time, MP McPherson. My apologies.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So we will now proceed to the second round. And the first member is MP Jenis. And for this round, each member will be provided 4 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to take about 20 seconds and then hand it over to Mr. Rapp. I just wanted to say, with respect to the humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan, Conservatives are similarly concerned, and I wanted to just mention, following Ms. McPherson's notice of motion, that this committee adopted its 6th report that we had proposed, which calls on the Government of Canada to fix the barriers that are preventing vital humanitarian aid from getting into Afghanistan. And so we see no harm in the committee reiterating itself, but I did want to flag that previous motion. Thank you for the work you're doing on Turkey and Syria, and I'll now hand it over to Mr. Rapp.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to go back to Ms. McPherson's comments, specifically on the anticipated UN appeal. I didn't get a clear understanding. You're going to look at it. Are you considering supporting it? And let me stop there for the moment.
Sure. Maybe, Chair, just to be clear here, there is a UN appeal that has been issued today for close to $400 million US. As we've done in every other case where there's been an appeal issued, Canada has responded at a burden chair.
Mr. Chairman.
Can't hear me?
English, please. That's what you're suggesting? Oh, for me to speak in English. My apologies. Yes, we're just going, we're just trying to fix this problem. So I certainly hope we can get it up and running.
If he can get closer to the mic, that will help.
Okay. Again, Mr. Salowitz, if we could just ask that you move the mic much closer. It's been a recurring problem, but we'd be grateful if you could do so. Thank you.
Too soft-spoken, I guess. Sorry about that. I'll speak up. So thank you, Chair. Yes, a UN appeal has been issued for Syria, close to $400 million US. As we do for all appeals, we look at them. So that was my suggestion. And we will finance a response through this appeal. It's something we've been anticipating for a while and looking forward to receiving, to have a document that we can refer to.
My clock in that interruption, so I hope you did too. I'm going to then come. You referenced earlier that we had existing relationships in Syria, and I'm not going to ask you into the specifics of it, but I assume that's under some sort of programming requirements of those partners. Is there flexibility built in? Given the disaster now, can resources be shifted quickly to address this within the existing programs?
Thank you, Chair, and that's a very helpful question because it is exactly what's happening. As I've mentioned, we have close to $50 million already invested in Syria. At the start of the year, those monies were allocated to our partners. They consist of NGO, UN, Red Cross partners, and indeed we're hearing from the field that they're pivoting already using those funds to respond to the crisis-affected population. Now, unfortunately, the crisis in Syria is tremendous, and it predates, of course, the earthquake. But those partners are being able, using our resources. For instance, one of our partners has transported $300,000 in medical supplies, distributing them to hospitals and health clinics in northwest Syria. Food is being distributed. Other partners they're all pivoting. So this is exactly what's happening.
Thank you. I want to give my colleague, Mr. Hobeck,
Thank you, David, and thank you, Chair. Question, you said 8 days later you're doing your first flight out of Dubai into the area. Why did it take 8 days to respond?
It's not that it took 8 days to respond. It took 8 days for us to get clearance for that flight into Syria. Within hours of the earthquake happening, Chair, we were on the phone with our partners at the Canadian Red Cross to release those supplies.
So it's Syria that delayed.
No, sorry, Turkey.
Turkey delayed the response.
It's not the delay. There was infrastructure damage. Airports were damaged. We're flying these supplies in. We have to get clearance, approval from the Turkish Red Crescent that they will receive these items and distribute those items. Okay. It's part of a long logistics chain because it's not just Canadian goods that are being received. There's a call out across the world for these supplies, and it's going into a logistics chain into the country.
I apologize. I don't mean to interrupt you. I have such little time.
Sure.
I'm afraid you're out of time, Mr. Hobeck. Thank you, Mr. Hobeck. We now go to Mr. Sarai.
Thank you, Chair. My concern is as many of my other members, in regards to aid to Syria. We were hearing the aid going to Turkey. There's a lot of my constituents are also concerned about aid improperly going to the Assad regime. Just wondering how you're making sure to prevent that. And the other side, are you seeing the openings that were announced last couple of days about routes to allow for aid into Syria? Are they in fact valid routes, and are they in fact getting to the places that are in need?
Thank you for the question, Chair. Indeed, we have a long history of working in northwest Syria, and those concerns of your constituents are the same ones we share. Our concern is that our assistance goes directly to individuals impacted by the humanitarian crisis, the long-running humanitarian crisis, and that's why we work with experienced partners that have the systems in place to vet and track all the assistance that's provided. They're Canadian partners, they're international NGOs, they're Red Cross, and they're the UN. and that's a top of mind for us. In terms of routes from Turkey into Syria, that's indeed been a big challenge over the last number of years, where the number of routes have been reduced over time to one. What we've heard already today is that the Assad regime has agreed to 2 additional routes being opened up, and one of them are already being used by the UN today. So we have some confirmation now that goods are starting to flow through these new routes. Thank you, Chair.
My next question may not particularly be addressed to you, but you may be familiar with it. Our Minister of Immigration has announced that they'll expedite immigration for visas and others that of people from Turkey and the region who have already applied, so people who want to bring their loved ones or spouses here. A lot of the concern has also been that they left their passports in their homes and they've escaped the home, but the home they can't get back to, either it's collapsed or it's in fear of collapsing. Are you working with the Turkish government in order to help those that might be able to get documentation or reproduce their documentation so that they're able to facilitate their travel to Canada where they are able to?
I'll pass the floor to Jess Dutton, please.
So, Mr. Chair, I don't actually have an answer to that question, but we will follow up with our colleagues at IRCC to ensure that you get a written response. I can assure you, however, that our resources at our mission in Ankara and Istanbul, and of course Beirut, which covers Syria, are doing everything they can to facilitate the individuals that you mentioned. Thank you.
My last, got time?
Yes, you still have it.
Sure. I would like to know, there has been questionable media reports that the Turkish government is not providing aid to certain areas because of the ethnic makeup of that area. Are you finding on the ground that the aid is going to the places that are in need based on need and not based on ethnic orientation of the groups there?
I don't have evidence one way or another. What I do know is that through reports and through our team who's been in the field, that the distributions they've seen are based on need, not on ethnicity. Thanks.
UN's coordinated response based on need and not based on where Turkey is telling them to go?
Indeed, that's the nature of the humanitarian imperative that they follow. The humanitarian principles is fundamental that it's based on need, not on ethnicity.
Thank you. We now go to Mr. Bergeron. You have 2 minutes, sir.
Merci.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll try to be quick. I'd like to get back to the issue of the aircraft that was chartered to deliver blankets to Turkey, among other things. A Saudi aircraft landed in Aleppo in Syria to deliver books, according to SANA. It's the first time in 10 years a Saudi aircraft lands in Syria. They cut off their relations with Syria in 2012. Are you intending to do the same, since the infrastructure in Turkey to help the population are far more elaborate than those that exist in Syria, given all the circumstances such as the civil war and so forth? Have we anticipated doing the same for Syria?
Thank you, Chair, for the question. We already have partners within Syria that are doing procurement locally to provide a response to the earthquake victims. The Red Cross has issued a request for materials for Turkey. Should they release one for Syria, we have supplies that we could also send to Syria. But to be clear, would go through a Red Cross movement pipeline and be distributed by the Red Cross. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bergeron. You had 15 seconds remaining. We will now go to MP McPherson. You have 2 minutes as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to follow up on some of those questions just around the barriers that we're seeing. Can you explain or tell us a little bit more about the barriers to access that are being caused by Assad, by the support from Russia at the United Nations, or the impacts of existing sanctions, whether they create barriers to providing the humanitarian assistance?
I'll pass the floor to Mr. Dutton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And yes, certainly I know that the Syrian, Russian, Chinese, and Iranian regimes have been using the excuse of sanctions as being an impediment to the provision of humanitarian assistance. I can assure you that from a Canadian perspective, we have exemptions written into the legislation which allows humanitarian assistance to be delivered to Syria. In terms of the United Nations, as you may know, there was only one border crossing approved by the Security Council. In the past, there had been more available for the provision of humanitarian support to Syria, but thanks to the Russians and the Chinese, that was whittled down to one last year. As my colleague noted, two other pathways are being opened. These aren't pathways controlled by the Syrian government. They are controlled by other forces in the area. And I know the Security Council is discussing that both yesterday and today. But we're hopeful that these pathways can be used for the provision of assistance moving forward.
Mr. Dutton, could I just clarify then, just to be very, very clear, you are saying that there is no issue at all with the existing sanctions impacting the ability of humanitarian organizations to work in the area?
So what I'm saying is that there are, written into the legislation, there are exemptions for organizations that are providing humanitarian support.
And those exemptions will prevent, sorry to interrupt, but those exemptions will prevent, that means that there won't be an issue for organizations.
Well, I can assure you that if there is an issue, the organizations can contact us and we will respond to questions on an emergency basis.
Thank you.
We now go to Mr. Hoback. Mr. Hoback, you have 4 minutes.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. 37,000, what's the forecasted death toll now? Where do they expect it to be at the end of the day? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't have those figures. Okay. It's rising quickly. Yeah.
So in an earthquake, time is of the essence. There's no question about that. So the fact it took 8 days to even get a plane on the ground with all its problems would have led to increase in death toll. Is that fair to say? If we would have been able to get that plane on the ground in 2 days or a day, 3 days, do you think we would have been able to have an impact in the outcome?
I think if you look at the experience that we've had over the years, this is not atypical. In any crisis, infrastructure damages limit access. We also have to remember that the government of Turkey controls the airports, controls access. So we're following protocol, which is a request from a national society for supplies.
Protocol. I'm just saying that because of the issues you faced, more people are going to die. Is that fair to say? Now, we do have parachutes. So there's no way to do airdrops and things like that. Like in a situation like this, how do you explore other alternatives other than landing and running it through the Red Cross? You got people in a cold and you got sleeping bags.
So maybe we should, Chair, go back to the Turkish Red Crescent. The government of Turkey has tremendous capacity. They are assisting already, distributing thousands of tents with heating, thousands of blankets. So the distribution is going on, led by the Turkish government.
But if you can't get the blankets to them in 8 days, because you don't have the landing strip or the ability to land, isn't there alternatives to get those goods to those people? And does it have to go through the Red Cross and Red Crescent? Again, I'm a farm kid from Saskatchewan, so I'm looking at it from a very pragmatic point of view. You drop a sleeping bag, I'm going to grab it and use it. Why do I have to wait for somebody from the Red Crescent or Red Cross to give it to me?
So one of the most important parts about the response, and thank you for the question, when we're faced by emergencies like this, is coordination is fundamental. That everyone showing up at the front door with something to offer can lead to a lot of inefficiencies. So we work through a system that's been established through lessons over the years, and it seems slow. Sometimes it seems not as immediate. Sometimes I can understand frustration, but at the same time, it allows for the efficient distribution of supplies, and they can as timely as we can be.
You know, I get efficiency, and efficient for us is one thing. Efficient for somebody on the ground who's freezing to death is something totally different. And if you can see where I'm coming from. Now, one of the other questions I want to go to, $50 million is going through the Red Cross. That's correct, or $75 million approximately in that area. Is it $50 million you said in your presentation?
Well, there's a $10 million matching fund.
Okay.
The $50 million is with partners already in northwest Syria. The money has been dispersed already.
So that money's hit the ground. It's actually being.
It's
how
already
much went
there.
into administration in that $50 million? Did it all hit the ground, or did it?
It's all there. It's
Okay.
all dispersed. It's actively being used by our partners to pivot to the response, to use those funds to distribute food, medical supplies, shelter supplies. So it's active right now.
One of the points I get from other countries when it comes to Red Cross, they tend to take and hive off a certain portion of that funds for next year and the year after, when the funds were intended to actually be delivered that day or that year or that month. How much of the $10 million is being actually delivered in this month or next month, and how much is going to be delivered next year and the year after, and how much is going to administration costs? Because that is an ongoing complaint I'm getting with the Red Cross over and over again.
Mr. Salowitz, you have 10 seconds, essentially.
Those are a lot of questions. I'd be happy to put some in writing, some of those answers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And for our final question, we will go to MP Oliphant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, officials, for not only being here today, but for your work. I'm constantly impressed at the professionalism and agility. I am a Midtown Toronto boy, and I don't pretend to know your work, so I actually trust you. And thank you and the officials that moved on this so quickly on behalf of not only Canada, but as humanitarians. And I think that sometimes coming to this committee is an abuse, and you put up with the abuse well, and your work is appreciated greatly by Canadians, and I want to thank you. We recently looked at the flooding in Pakistan as an issue, and what came into my head on that issue was the short-term crisis management, the medium term, which is about recovery and absolutely trying to save as many lives as possible, the midterm, which is to look at, if there's an outbreak of cholera or other things that happen in these disasters. There's a midterm moment, then there's a long-term moment. And I'm just wondering, we're somewhere between that immediate first moment and the second moment. We're somewhere in that phase right now. I know you don't have a crystal ball, and I know it's a complex situation, but can you give us a sense of where we might be going and what might be demanded or required of Canadians to be supportive?
Thank you, Chair. And indeed, this is a quickly evolving situation, and one based on past experience. We will see, unfortunately, the establishment of large displacement camps. There's going to be a need for significant support in the medium term to just keep people in shelter, fed. The good news is that markets are working in Turkey, and that we'll be able to move to cash operations shortly in the near term, so that cash can be provided to beneficiaries and they could actually purchase goods themselves to respond. The needs in the medium term will continue to be around, I point towards healthcare. That's going to be a significant one. As we think of all the numbers of people who are dead, there's multiples of that who are injured during a crisis like this. And the requirements for recovery in that kind of situation are tremendous. So I think there'll be a lot of efforts in the medium term to move from this life-saving into more of that recovery, and that health recovery is going to be particularly important. I expect that the World Bank and others will get involved looking at that medium to longer term to provide guidance and planning around how best to respond.
And I know we don't have officials here from IRCC, but I have spoken to a number of Kurdish Canadians who are concerned about or requesting the possibility of fast-tracking family reunification applications that are already in process, and part of that displaced persons issue could be Canada's role in helping resettle not only Kurdish, but particularly Kurdish people who are in maybe doubly displaced. They'd already been displaced once and being displaced again. Is there any advice you have for me or for our committee about how we could address that issue?
Colleague Jess Dutton.
Certainly, I mean, I think, Mr. Chair, engaging with the minister and others will be critically important in that. Certainly, I know that as the government responds to these kind of crises, we do look at all avenues available to help alleviate suffering. And certainly that is one which I imagine would be considered.
All right, consider it. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you very much. So before suspending briefly to allow us to go to the second panel, allow me to echo the sentiments of all members of this committee in thanking you for the professionalism you have demonstrated under very, very difficult circumstances. Thank you. So for those online, you can remain on this channel, and we'll suspend for about 3-4 minutes. Everyone. Pursuant to Standing Order 1082 and the motion adopted by the committee on Thursday, February 7th, 2023, the committee is holding a briefing on the humanitarian crisis following a series of earthquakes in Turkey and Syria. It is now my pleasure to welcome our witnesses, most of whom are joining us virtually. From the Catholic Near East Welfare Association, we have Monsignor Peter Vaccari, who is the president with us. We have Adriana Barra, who is the national director. Then from the Humanitarian Coalition, we have Richard Morgan, who acts as executive director. From the Islamic Relief Canada, we have Usama Khan, who is the chief executive officer. And from Oxfam Canada, we have Andre Charlebois, the humanitarian project manager from Oxfam, Quebec. Now, just for the benefit of the witnesses we have, first of all, thank you for being here. But you will be provided 5 minutes of opening remarks. After that, we will open it up to questions from the members. But once you're 30 seconds short of the allotted time, I will put up this sign so you can hopefully try to wrap it up in the remaining 30 seconds that you have available to you. So on that note, we will now go to Monsignor Vakari. The floor is yours, sir, for 5 minutes.
The vice chairs and the rest of the committee for the opportunity to be here this afternoon. I accompany Dr. Adriana Barra, who is the National Director of CNEWA in Canada. I will take the opportunity to just offer some introductory comments to the Catholic Near East Welfare Association. I believe that Dr. Barra has already prepared and submitted to the committee a very specific report, and we certainly welcome this opportunity to share our experiences with the committee and to answer any questions that the committee may have. The Catholic Near East Welfare Association was organized, founded by Pope Pius XI in 1926. Since that time, and as we approach our centennial celebration now, the Catholic Near East Welfare Association has as its specific mandate to give assistance, humanitarian assistance, pastoral assistance to the Catholic churches of the Eastern Rites, Eastern Catholic churches, of which there are 23. When we do this, the assistance that we give, be it humanitarian or pastoral, is given as we accompany the local church in a particular area that has been affected by some kind of a very difficult situation, certainly similar to what we are all aware of right now with regard to the earthquakes in parts of Turkey and in Syria. We have done recently assistance to Ukraine and assistance to Lebanon over the last 2 or 3 years. We work with the local church, all the representatives there, in providing the kind of humanitarian assistance that the local people, especially where we have and are working with our offices on the ground, want to provide us with very specific needs. In this case,
Monsignor Vakari, sorry, we're having some sound problems on our end. Monsignor, if you could kindly bring the mic closer to your mouth because the translators are having a difficult time, we'd be very grateful. Thank you.
Is that better, Mr. Chair?
I think has improved things on our end. Would be grateful if you could continue to do so. And once again, the floor is yours, and we did save you some time to make up for this interruption. Thank you.
Okay. Again, I thank the chair and I thank the committee for this opportunity. In the way in which Catholic Near East Welfare Association works, we work with the local churches. We work with our offices on the ground, particularly the case here with regard to Syria. Our office in Beirut is the office that is really responsible for and is in communication with the needs that develop in Syria. We are cultivating partnerships, as we do in other places, particularly now with Caritas in Turkey, to be able to also request support from our donors to try to give assistance to those areas, primarily and then in Syria through our office on the ground in Beirut, and through partnership trying to give assistance in Turkey. The immediate needs, and we began this emergency campaign shortly after learning, as the world did, of the earthquake, which came into Turkey and to Syria. The immediate needs that now we are responding to are for blankets, food, milk, diapers, medication, mattresses. Again, I believe all of these are in the report which was submitted to the committee, and so you have a sense of where we go, at least initially. We will continue as long as we can along those lines. What we have done in other instances has then also transfer as needs develop by contact with our office, particularly here in Beirut, to see where else we have needs and where else we must respond. In many other instances, that has included moving towards a further of humanitarian needs, and also, of course, at a certain point in time, not near that here, the psychosocial needs, psychological and social needs of a particular people. Our aid comes because of the requests that we receive, but our aid, humanitarian especially, is distributed to everyone. There is no question about faith. There is no question about any other condition for someone who is in such a horrific situation as this. So our work is very much directed toward people of every faith and people who are in any kind of a condition of need. That has been the purpose, that has been the work of the Catholic Near East Welfare Association for the areas of where the Eastern Catholic churches are located, again, in the Middle East, in the Horn of Africa, in India, in Eastern Europe, and we continue to work and to be of service. It is a great privilege for us to be able to answer a fundamental gospel mandate for us. That is the parable of the Good Samaritan, when we try to answer the question, who is my neighbor? Again, I thank the committee for the opportunity, and I am sure that you will hear from Dr. Barra with the report that she submitted, a much more extensive comprehensive view of what we are doing, and then we would both like to be available to answer any of the questions that any committee members may have. I thank the committee.
Thank you very much. We next go to Humanitarian Coalition. Mr. Morgan, you have 5 minutes, sir.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, as well as members of the committee, for inviting us to this session on the urgent situation in Turkey and Syria, as well as Canada's response. I'm also happy to see that our members are participating in this discussion.
The Humanitarian Coalition brings together 12 of Canada's leading international aid agencies working in 140 countries. These include Action Against Hunger, Canadian Lutheran World Relief, CARE, Doctors of the World, Humanity and Inclusion, Islamic Relief, Oxfam Quebec and Oxfam Canada, Plan International, Save the Children, and World Vision. In addition, the Canadian Food Grains Bank is a member which brings together 15 other church-based development agencies, including Mennonite Central Committee, Caritas Canada, and others. Together, we provide Canadians with a simple and effective way to help when disaster strikes. Since 2009, we have raised $160 million to aid 8 million people in over 120 disasters. Our members work across the peace-building, development, and humanitarian nexus, with combined annual operations exceeding $1.1 billion. We reach 16 to 18 million Canadians, and we are supported by more than 2.5 million active donors. Last year, we partnered with the Canadian government, as many of you know, to respond to the hunger crisis in sub-Saharan Africa, to the flooding in Pakistan, but you may not know that we also responded to more than a dozen small-scale responses worldwide. With that background in mind, allow me to focus on 3 key messages today. The first is that the needs in Turkey and Syria are massive and growing. Beyond the search and rescue efforts that have been the focus of much of our discussion, a second wave of humanitarian needs is already upon us. We need to shelter, feed, protect, reunite, care for, educate tens of thousands of homeless, displaced children, women, and men in the coming weeks and months ahead, particularly during this cold winter period. Second, our members are already responding and scaling up in the affected areas, but government and private funding to date has been inadequate. A much more significant response from Canada and the global community is urgently required. And third, I would like to emphasize the value add that the Humanitarian Coalition brings as a partner with the government. Government cannot and should not do it all, and Canada lags behind many of its OECD counterparts in terms of leveraging philanthropy during humanitarian crises. In partnering with the Humanitarian Coalition and its networks, the government can mobilize more Canadians to help save more lives. As you may have seen, the death toll in Turkey and Syria has risen to more than 37,000, although reports, of course, are different depending on which source you're referring to. Many thousands more, at least 100,000, have suffered injuries, and these numbers will actually continue to rise. The World Health Organization estimates that up to 26 million people, 15 million in Turkey and 11 million in Syria, are affected in both countries. 6,000 buildings or more are damaged or destroyed, including hospitals, residences, schools, government buildings. Many others remain standing but are unsafe, and more will come down. As you may note, more than 2,100 aftershocks have been felt in the last week alone. This leaves thousands of families in both countries without adequate shelter and livelihoods. Urgent action is needed to avert a further catastrophe. Worldwide, our members are already actively working through national offices and local partners, and I want to emphasize that localization aspect of our work. In Turkey, 7 of our members are actively programming, and some have been there for more than 20 years. In Syria, all 12 of our member agencies have been active there for at least a decade. And as you know, 4.1 million people in the Northwest area are already dependent on humanitarian assistance due to years of conflict. My colleagues at Islamic Relief and Oxfam Quebec will speak more to their work, but overall our response includes the multiple stages of immediate, near-term, and then medium and longer-term response. So certainly ongoing assistance with search and rescue, emergency food and multi-purpose cash, shelter and non-food items, primary care and medical supplies, water, sanitation, hygiene, menstrual health management support, mental health and psychosocial support, assistive devices for those who have experienced life-changing injuries, protection and safe spaces for children and women particularly, education in emergencies, which has been terribly disrupted, and eventually building back better and recovering livelihoods. Despite the scale of devastation, Canadians are not abandoning hope. To date, we have raised more than $8 million together, and this will help approximately 400,000 people. Each donation makes a difference in another person's life. A blanket may cost only $8, but can make the world of difference to someone out in the cold. To give you one inspiring example of Canadian generosity, Ismir Kassam from Calgary just turned 10 years old on February 6th, the day that the earthquake struck. He loves to run, and he's running to raise funds for the victims of the earthquake in Syria and Turkey. He will do 10 runs of 10 kilometers each over 10 weeks starting this Sunday. We need more of Ismir's compassion, more of his courage, and more of his creativity in the coming weeks. In summary, the needs in Turkey are significant and growing. The members of the Humanitarian Coalition are already responding and scaling up, but government and private funding so far has been inadequate. And thirdly, the government cannot and should not do it all, as I said earlier. It needs to leverage the power and creativity of philanthropy in support of this response. So this leads me to 2 recommendations for the committee. One, in support of the work that you heard from Mr. Salowitz earlier, the government needs to mobilize substantial and supplemental funding. And secondly, we would urge that the government consider a matching fund to the members of the Humanitarian Coalition so that we can stretch the support that Canadians are willing to provide, that we can mobilize media, public, corporate networks to transform this terrible situation. Merci, Monsieur le Président, de nous avoir.
Thank you for having invited us, Mr. Chairman, and for letting us share our observations and recommendations. I thank you for your attention. I'll be pleased to answer questions.
Next, for Islamic Relief Fund, we go to Mr. Osama Khan. Welcome back. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Honorable Chair and members of the committee. I just wanted to start off by thanking all of you for the really, really important work that you do. I know recently you had a study on S211, and it's for now awaiting the 3rd reading, and we really appreciate all of the hard work. Today we're here to talk about the earthquake that happened just over a week ago. I'm here to represent the more than 85,000 injured people who no longer have a home. I'm here to represent all those that we lost. I'm here to represent our courageous staff members, both in Turkey and Syria, who've been living there, are nationals of there, and many of whom have lost their own family members. One of our staff members lost 32 members of his extended family, yet after burying them with so much courage, patience, and a sense of community service, is back distributing aid to those that have survived. I'm also here to represent the 21,000 Canadians across the country who have donated to Islamic Relief Canada, the many more tens of thousands that have donated to our various partners of the Humanitarian Coalition. Canadians across the country have seen the images and the videos on their social media and on media, and they're deeply impacted by the impact of what those in Turkey and Syria are going through. And I'm here to represent their concerns that they have and the expectations they have of public officials, elected officials, from all sides of the aisle. As you know, the epicenter of the earthquake was in Turkey. I was in Gaziantep a few years ago, and the southern parts of Turkey have hosted millions of Syrian refugees who have escaped a decade of civil war and conflict. The infrastructure in Turkey has been well established. Their disaster risk readiness is well established. And so hours after the earthquake, they were able to bring excavators and construction vehicles to start digging. However, because of the constant airstrikes, many of the buildings in Syria were already unstable. Many of the people, more than 3.3 million people in northwest Syria, have already been displaced, and not just once, multiple times. There is a lost generation of children who haven't been able to go to school. And they didn't have construction vehicles or bulldozers to respond to the cries that they heard of their family members. I was speaking to our head of mission of Syria yesterday, and the stories that he's telling about people being able to hear their family members, but not being able to move rocks and the rubble to help save them. As you know, the constant fear of airstrikes, the lack of health infrastructure, the recent outbreak of cholera make this incredibly difficult for the Syrians in northwest and throughout Syria. And the access issues to get aid into Syria. In the first few days after the disaster, the only border crossing between Turkey and Syria was closed. That has recently opened. Just yesterday we heard about the UN allowing for or facilitating the opening of a few more access points from Turkey to Syria. Our staff in both Turkey and Syria have been operating there, our local staff, for more than a decade. We have warehouses in Syria. We have procurement supplies that we solicit in Syria. We have banking mechanisms to ensure that reliable funding can be spent on people in a reliable way through our local staff members in Syria. We have more than 600 project staff in Syria and more than 60 permanent management staff in Syria coordinating all of our aid efforts. The asks, I think, are primarily for funding. The Canadian government has announced $10 million and a $10 million matching fund for the Red Cross. As my colleague Richard Morgan has said, it's imperative that the government announces an extension of the matching fund through the Humanitarian Coalition. The 12 agencies will be able to go to their donor base and the general public to incentivize Canadians to continue stepping up. After the news gets off the news cycle and off of our social media feeds, unfortunately, the needs will be very long-term. The needs of shelter and rebuilding infrastructure and livelihood. So we ask for more direct funding commitments from the government. We ask for a matching fund. We ask that in the upcoming budget, there not be a decrease in the ODA and the development portfolio. We understand that Canada itself is facing potential economic recession and rising inflation. However, there's an imperative that we step up and continue to help those around the world. And lastly, for this committee to take an interest in the underlying crisis in Syria to ensure that more humanitarian corridors are opened, to use our soft power with our multilateral partners and the UN to push for a resolution of the 10-year-old civil war. Thank you so much.
We next go to Oxfam Canada. For Oxfam, we have with us Mr. André Charlebois. You have 5 minutes, Mr. Charlebois.
Merci.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope my sound is adequate. My name is André Charlebois. I'm the Humanitarian Project Manager at Oxfam Quebec. Oxfam has existed for over 50 years. Its mission is to combat inequality and put an end to poverty. Oxfam Quebec and Oxfam Canada are members of Oxfam International, which has 21 affiliate members. We are members of the Humanitarian Coalition. My colleague Richard just talked to you about that. I'd like to talk more specifically of Oxfam's presence in Syria. We've been there since 2013. We've been working for providing drinking water and increasing the subsistence of vulnerable populations. We have to have framework agreements with local partners in order to work in Syria, as well as with the Syrian government. We have 3 offices, one in Aleppo, one in Deir ez-Zor, and one in Damascus in the south. Right now, following the earthquake, Oxfam is already on the ground to respond to the humanitarian and immediate needs. It has affected Syria that's already fragile. The earthquake simply worsens a humanitarian crisis that was already present. After 12 years of conflict, the people were living with the consequences of that. The communities are destroyed, economies are fragile, there's old infrastructure, and there's a lack of basic services. Now we have the destruction caused by the earthquake and the cholera epidemic, as well as the harsh winter they're experiencing right now. More than ever, what the Syrians need is long-term sustainable aid. Before the earthquake, almost 15 million people needed assistance. 85% of households that couldn't meet their basic needs. Over 7 million internally displaced people and 2 million in camps. Humanitarian response is often short-term. You save lives in the days and months following a catastrophe. However, the impact on communities and families are felt in the long term over many months and even years. It's not just a matter of giving immediate assistance, but also rebuilding these communities. We need sustainable long-term support. We need to go further than the emergency response and support reconstruction. Long-term aid allows us to develop links with local partners, support communities, and strengthen civil society organizations. 2/3 of Syrians are living in zones that are not in active conflict. The assistance has to adapt. For Oxfam, the best way to get people out of poverty is the rehabilitation of public infrastructure. Syria had extensive public services before the war. We have to start with that to help Syrians. But there are obstacles to sustainable support. There's the absence of long-term flexible funding, worldwide sanctions that harm humanitarian response to the population. These are the Syrians who are suffering the most. They lack fuel, electricity, drinking water, and so forth. From a humanitarian standpoint, the sanctions prevent operations from proceeding properly and being effective and durable. In order to help Syrians get out of this situation, governments have to have sustainable solutions. Canada has to show leadership. There's a need to fund not only the emergency aid, but the rehabilitation of infrastructures. There's a need for flexible multi-year funding. It should not be politicized. We have to be neutral and foster independence. The aid given by Canada should follow the same principles. I'd be pleased to discuss this during the question period. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Charlebois. We now go to the members, and the first member up is MP Genis. MP Genis, you have 3 minutes for the first round.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the witnesses for being here, more importantly, for the important work you're doing in this crisis situation, but the important work you do at all times helping some of the most vulnerable people around the world. I want to just start by underlining our party's support for more inclusive matching programs. This has been a consistent ask Our preference is that the government tries to be as inclusive as possible in its approach to matching programs, so as not to, in effect, deter donations to smaller organizations. And certainly, a matching program for the humanitarian coalition as a whole would be much preferable to a matching program involving the Red Cross only. And that concern is reflected in the report that was tabled today on our findings related to the response to the earthquake in Pakistan. So thank you to all of you for being here. I want to start with a question to Kaniwa and Islamic Relief. If you could both share a little bit about kind of the particular impacts of this crisis situation on religious and ethnic minority communities, people that may already face various kinds of challenges, and people that are displaced as well. So maybe we'll start with Kaniwa and then go to Islamic Relief.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to mention that Kiniwa always help people in need, regardless their religions or Christian affiliation. Although it's Catholic, the name is Catholic Near East Welfare Association, we open the door to everybody. We have in place communities, religious communities that they help people. For instance, the Marist brothers, they have around 1,000 families in their covenant, because people just go to the covenant, to schools, to halls, searching for help. And they never ask what is their religion or their ethnicity. They just help people with food, with clothes, and the basic needs. One sister at Kiniwa said that we don't help people because they are Christians. We help people because we are. This is a slogan that we use for Kiniwa, so we never ask people what are their religion, and we never do differences in helping people. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. I'm almost out of time, but Mr. Khan, anything you're noticing in terms of differential impacts that you'd like to share?
You know, in any crisis, anybody who's a minority or marginalized is definitely impacted more. I can speak from our experience, not just in Turkey, Syria, but around the world. We definitely do not discriminate at all, and there's a strict criteria to look at the most vulnerable populations, irrespective of their faith, their creed, their background, and aid is delivered to them without any discrimination.
Thank you for your great work. I think that's my time, Chair.
Thank you. We next go to MP Bendayan. You have 3 minutes.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, et à mon...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd also like to thank all the witnesses for their work on the ground, and thank you for being with us this morning in order to discuss the tragic and horrible situation. I'd like to start with Mr. Charlebois. Earlier during our meeting, one of my colleagues put a question, and I see that Mr. Jennis has reiterated this, that is whether the humanitarian aid on the ground is distributed fairly. In a just way, without distinction between ethnic communities or religious communities. What's your experience with this? What do you see as a representative of Oxfam? Thank you for the question. What I can say is that Oxfam works by applying basic humanitarian principles independently, neutrally, impartially, in responding to the needs of the most vulnerable. Of course, we work in zones that are controlled by the government, but displaced persons cross borders and go into zones that are not under government control, that are occupied sometimes. We work with the most vulnerable. That's how we target our recipients of aid. Okay, thank you. You also raised the issue of sanctions as being an obstacle. And I understand the difficult situation in Syria, but I do want to say that I totally am opposed to lifting sanctions on Bashar al-Assad's government or that of Vladimir Putin. Can't we deliver more aid and work with trusted partners on the ground without giving carte blanche to two of the worst regimes in power today? Well, it's not a matter of giving carte blanche to anyone. I think there are exceptions made for humanitarian actors. Now, the reality on the ground is that sanctions choke off the economy, so it directly affects the population. There are always ways to avoid those sanctions for tradespeople who benefit from it, but of course, we don't want to see sanctions lifted, but it's a matter of allowing humanitarian groups to have access to the most vulnerable. Very well. Do I have time for another question? Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Charlebois. Mr. Bergeron, please, you have 3 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, thank you all for being with us today. I salute your work on the ground. I'm thinking of Catholic Near East Welfare Association. I had an opportunity a few months ago to meet with Œuvre d'Orient in Paris, who does analogous work. So congratulations to all these organizations. Now, very quickly, Mr. Morgan, with regard to your 2 proposals, you probably heard officials earlier tell us that they work within very well-defined budget parameters. There seems to be some opening to the call by the UN to grant more funding. So obviously there's some opening on that end. Now, with regard to matching funds that were exclusively given to Red Cross, Red Crescent, you're suggesting that this be extended to the entire humanitarian coalition. We put the question to the officials, and you were there. What we were told is that there were already programs in place and budgets in place that allowed us to cooperate with other organizations working in the field, and that matching funds are just one element of the humanitarian aid provided by Canada in Turkey and Syria. What's your answer to that? Inaudible. What we have to say about what Mr. Salowitz said earlier, the 50 million he's talking about, these are funds that were already allocated, that are already being used right now in Syria. And what the government allows is some flexibility regarding the use of those funds. But these are funds that was already used, spent, and it does not necessarily meet all the new requirements that are happening. The dilemma that I see, and the reason for our first recommendation, asking for support by this committee for a larger humanitarian envelope for global affairs, is that they have a budget annually, but they've already allocated, through their commitments, all the available funds. Insofar as we see the magnitude of this crisis, the government has to do more, and to do that, it will need to get these funds elsewhere beyond the budgets that are normally allocated. So there's an urgent need, and I hope this will gain support by all the parties to increase what the government can do. The matching funds is just one element, but be it people at home or the government itself, everyone has financial difficulties, so we have to exploit what we can do to a maximum.
So we will have to go to MP McPherson. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I want to echo all of my colleagues on this meeting to thank all of you for the work that you're doing, the work that you do on the ground. It's so important, and I know the danger you put yourselves in. I know what your sector goes through to provide these services, and so I'm very, very grateful to all of you. Mr. Morgan, I'd like to continue on some of the questions that my colleague from the bloc has been asking. You know, frankly, it is extremely frustrating for me to see the government not include the humanitarian coalition. We know that you have significant access on the ground, that you are on the ground, and I'd like you to talk about that a little bit. What areas do humanitarian coalition members, where are they responding specifically within Turkey and Syria? How, let's push back on that narrative that Red Cross was there, but that the humanitarian coalition was not.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and MP McPherson. I would emphasize indeed that, to your point, the members of the Humanitarian Coalition are deeply localized. The grand bargain commitments that Mr. Salowitz was referring to earlier are, I think, most effectively delivered by members of the Humanitarian Coalition already working through national offices, staffed by local and national staff, and also by partners, really driving home the localization commitment that we have all made as part of the grand bargain. I'd also add that as Osama mentioned, many of our members are part of those neighbors helping neighbors, digging through the rubble, trying to help those whose cries they are hearing. And some of our own members' teams have been lost as a result of these earthquakes. Communities are always the first responders, and we rally in behind them. What that means in terms of our response at the moment in Turkey, it includes Gaziantep, Urfa, Mardin, Hatay, Sanliurfa, and Izmir. In Syria, it includes areas including Aleppo, Hama, Tartus, Latakia, Afrin, Idlib, Azaz, Al-Hasaka, Dara, and also areas controlled by the government, by the Kurdish parties, as well as by Syrian defense forces. So across and my apologies for my pronunciation for some of those names. The point is that we have local access in many contexts, and we would like the committee to recognize that, as well as global affairs.
And another thing that you touched on with my colleague, Mr. Bergeron, that I'd like just to get you to reiterate a little bit is around that supplemental. One of the recommendations that you had is that it be substantial funding, of course, but that it also be supplemental. Because, like you mentioned, what is happening within global affairs often, as we have our official development assistance so low at 0.3%, of course, the goal is 0.7%. But when our ODA is so low, what happens is that there is very much the risk of stealing from Peter to pay for Paul in certain situations. And of course, there isn't a single person who doesn't want as much support going to Turkey and Syria as possible. But could you talk about the impacts of this money coming from previous allocated programs?
Yeah, thank you again for the question. The challenge, of course, is that when you've made commitments in advance to a multi-year program, you have already identified where you want to respond, what interventions in particular you want to pursue. You make commitments, you source, you procure, and then an earthquake hits, and so you've already spent some of the money, and now you have to pivot quickly, even where you have available funds to respond. But I think the point is the needs in a context, particularly of Syria, where you've already had 12 years of civil war, where you already have 4.1 million people needing aid, where you have successive UN requests underfunded significantly. There's nowhere near enough in terms of using previous commitments to respond to the new challenges. I think the scope and scale is beyond what many expected, and we need to do more. So thank you for that preoccupation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now go to the second round of questions. This round will consist of 3 minutes again. We first go to MP Janice.
Thank you, Chair. And I know that as opposition politicians, it's easier for us to be tough on the government than it is for stakeholders who apply to the government for funding. But Mr. Moore, I just wanted to ask you, I mean, we raise these issues repeatedly about inclusive matching programs. What do you think is the barrier or the problem in terms of the government just saying, sure, we'll include as many people as possible? You've made strong arguments today. Presumably you've made those arguments to members of the government. What do you think the problem is in terms of actually doing this in an inclusive way?
It's an important question. Thank you. I'd say there were a few factors. One is the timeliness of decision making. So, in the immediate aftermath of the earthquake, I think the government was trying to move as quickly as it could, and had well-established mechanisms already with the Red Cross, and so it was easy to respond through the Red Cross. And the Red Cross is doing important work, so we support that. I think the challenge that we feel is that the deeply local capacity of our members is underappreciated by Global Affairs, and we believe actually is a resource that the government should be tapping into. So appreciate that question. We think we can bring more as a value-added partner to the government. And in fact, I would add that there are many places where the Red Cross is not able to access, that many of our members are able to deliver. Again, that local capacity in all regions of Syria is a good example of that.
Thank you for that. I also wanted to ask just about, Mr. Khan, you mentioned the situation in Syria in general, the civil war, 10 years requiring our continuing attention. I'm tight for time, but I wonder if you and then back to Kaniwa, any just reflections on what we need to be doing in response to the 10-year long situation in terms of the civil war, and what our political response to that should be?
I think the first thing is just recognizing what people there have gone through. To look at this issue from the eyes of that 4 or 5-year-old child who is now 13 or 14 and has seen nothing but war and airstrikes and displacement. I think for Canadians to understand the crisis, and I get it, it's politically complex. In some ways, it's a proxy war between global superpowers and global actors, and there's no easy solution. I think understanding all the factors at play, making sure we use all of our relationships as a government, and using the soft power of Canada in international diplomacy to keep the focus on trying to resolve it in a way that all Syrians are included in the political process and ultimately have stability and prosperity in the country.
Else want to weigh in on that?
I'm afraid we're over 3 minutes. We will next go to MP Sorbera. MP Sorbera, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and welcome, everyone. Firstly, thank you to all the organizations that have come here for the work that you do on the ground, not only in this part of the world, but in many other parts of the world as well. So thank you. The riding I'm privileged to represent has a very large Turkish population, also members of Kurdish heritage, to the extent that if I go to my local park with my daughters, you'll hear the Turkish language being spoken quite frequently, and there are a number of restaurants and cafes run by individuals. I first want to start off to express my condolences, because I know many members in my community, especially Kurdish heritage, have lost members back home. I've spoken with many of them, and so forth, and they've lost a lot, not just property, but they've lost loved ones as well. So my heart goes out to them. In terms of the short-term needs of the population, if we can divide it between the impacted areas in Turkey and the impacted areas in Syria, what can we be doing more so on the ground that we are not doing at this moment in time? We've made commitments. The federal government's made commitments. We are there. And I've been thanked by the Turkish ambassador when I went and saw him last week here in Canada. But what further can we be doing to assist that would make a tangible difference? If I can start off with Oxfam Canada, and then go to Catholic Near East, and then to Islamic Relief, and then finishing up by Mr. Morgan, if you can answer quickly. Thank you.
I'm sorry, can you just... Est-ce que vous pourriez préciser la question?
Could you clarify the question, please?
Commence, please.
André, tu pourrais répondre par la suite aussi.
André, you can answer after.
The point that we would be emphasizing is the multiple phases of an emergency. As Usama pointed out, in the first instance, mobilizing heavy machinery to be able to move debris was very challenging and remains challenging. And I think what's heart-wrenching for all of us is that the window is shrinking fast. And I think we're moving tragically from a point of rescuing people from the rubble to sadly moving towards rescuing bodies, and that's heartbreaking. But once you've managed to get as many people as possible out of the rubble, then you absolutely need to shelter, feed and care for these people. And this was not something that is only going to be a matter of weeks. It's going to be months. So many buildings are compromised on both sides of the border. In terms of in the case of Syria from previous hostilities, in the case of Turkey from challenges in terms of building code and other issues, so many buildings are unsafe, and it's not habitable for people to be in such proximity for such extended periods. So shelter is going to be a huge issue, and then the psychosocial trauma that people have experienced needs support. The children have gone through something that's unimaginable for the vast majority of us, and they'll need support. And then, of course, the long-term recovery of livelihoods.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. We next go to MP Bergeron. You have a minute and a half, Mr. Bergeron.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very quickly, I think one of the concerns that we have, or that I have particularly, is that we know that Turkey is terribly affected by the earthquake, but it does have some infrastructure that allows it to face the situation to a certain extent. The case of Syria is different, I'd say, in the sense that there's no more civil authority on a big part of the territory. There was the civil war, there's sanctions. I don't think anybody is suggesting lifting the sanctions, but we see it with Afghanistan. There are a number of parameters in the regulatory framework and the Canadian legislation that harm the operations in the field. What would you like to see from us so that aid can be much more effective on the ground in Syria in particular? To whoever wants to answer.
First, I think one of the factors, as Richard mentioned, the Red Cross, the equivalent, which is the Red Crescent, the access for that is in Damascus-controlled regions. Multiple witnesses mentioned about the northwest Syria, the displacement, and really the need that's in northwest Syria around Idlib and Aleppo. I think that should be a focus of the government. The other point I'd like to mention is historically we've seen in crisis and responses from the Canadian government, but also governments around the world, the split between multilateral agencies like the UN bodies and civil society actors, like Oxfam, Islamic Relief, and the other members of the Humanitarian Coalition and other Canadian charities. I think it's important for the committee, for the government to recognize effectiveness, recognize the speed of delivery, and tilt the balance towards more of the NGOs, and that should be up for consideration as well.
Merci.
And for the last question, we go to MP McPherson. You have a minute and a half.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Again, thank you for your testimony. I don't have very much time. I'll ask Mr. Khan, perhaps you could continue on that thought. What does your organization, what do organizations require to meet the needs in Syria for the short and long-term recovery? Just final thoughts on that as we have a very short amount of time.
Thank you for the question. I think the analogy of giving people fish and teaching them how to fish, that applies. There's absolutely urgent needs in terms of search and rescue, in terms of providing tents. Last night it was -5 degrees in the region, and a lot of people are being forced to sleep in cars. Tents, blankets, food, non-food items. These are the urgent need in both Turkey, but very much so in Syria because of all the points mentioned. But I think this crisis, the needs will not go away in a week, in months, or even years. So there has to be a long-term commitment from countries like Canada to make sure that we can ensure safeguarding, we can ensure healthcare facilities, healthcare infrastructure. We can rebuild public infrastructure, roads, ensure that there's long-term safe dwelling for families. Our teams, other organizations, I think it's going to take all of us together to do this, and it's going to take a commitment for many, many years.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. And now being 1 o'clock, I just wanted to thank all of our witnesses, Monsignor Vakari, Ms. Berra, Monsieur Charlebois, Mr. Khan, Mr. Morgan. Thank you ever so much for your expertise and your perspective today, but also thank you for everything you've been doing for many, many years. And obviously, given the terrible devastation and the scope of what we have seen in Turkey and in Syria, we are very, very grateful for all your efforts, and thank you for making our world a better place. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.